Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager, episode 56. We're heading to Silverstone next, but before we do that, we have some money to spend, nearly 20 million, and as it's mid-season, we don't need to bank anything for next year just yet. 15 million is the next upgrade in the simulator, and for the simulator, well, it makes sense because it's the one that has the condition that's about to fall off, which means we're going to lose the quality of what we have there, and therefore we want to cover off the condition loss as well as reach the next stage, which is stage 4 out of 5, and it definitely brings us in a positive direction, and we have to at this stage, right now that we have less time in wind tunnel. We have to have better quality upgrades based on the units, especially without ideal staff either. Less than a week until we enter the new period. Our side pod design is done, so this took care of that one big upgrade for each of the 3 components that were lagging behind the most. But as we go to enter a new period in a few days, I'm wondering if it's time to go back to the main parts, the ones that made us competitive in the first place, and get one upgrade for each of those on the next round, so at least we have something this year to speak of in those, and keep the car a bit on the competitive side. And then for the following round after that, return to continually trying to bring along these smaller, less impactful parts, but the ones that are really lagging behind compared to everybody else, and ultimately costing us the top speed, which is obviously still a pretty big factor for us. Let's see just how far we've fallen. The underfloor, the first upgrade we're going to make, was first. It was the best part of the grid as an underfloor, and now we're down to 5th, 9th, 1st, 3rd, 11th. Certainly not bad, but it's nowhere near what it was. Going 1/3 of our total allotted time, and then max effort, which does cost more, but ultimately is how you make best use of the time that you have. Well, drag reduction goes back up to 1st. Low speed goes from 9th back up to 3rd. Medium speed's already there. High speed remains 3rd, and airflow sensitivity goes from 11th back up to 3rd. So it gets us back up to basically the best, if not second best, underfloor on the grid, with only a single upgrade for the entire year. As a car, it brings us back up to, well, it brings us up to 14th in top speed, so it actually helps us there. The drag reduction part, more useful here than other places. Again, underfloor is, what was it, 60% of your aerodynamic impact on the car. I mean, of the overall compared to the other parts, it is the most influential. That's why we started with the underfloor, but neglecting it so far this year has cost us immensely. High speed going from 9th back up to 3rd, so even though high speed's not even moving up a spot overall on the grid, it's bringing us up past 3 cars. Low speed moves up 1 spot, medium speed goes back to the top. DRS, minor gains, and dirty air, definitely quality gains. Gets us back into a very competitive spot that we don't have right now. But it is going to take a little bit of time. Take 87 days, but at 1.3 million, no problem. Now, simultaneous projects ongoing, are going to have a different impact each one. But you can see the rear wing, it's going to improve top speed. It's going to help with the high speed cornering, acceleration, and ultimately it was a part that was still probably best, but only just. And you can see the high speed, where it had dropped to 5th, is going to go back to the top. Airflow sensitivity is going to remain 3rd, though. It's not first across the board, but it's pretty dang close. And overall average, if 5 out of 6 are best and 1 out of 6 is second best, then you've got the best rear wing on the grid. This gets us back into that position for the later stretch here. And it's quite clear which part fell off the most in terms of comparative to the rest of the grid, and that is the front wing, which had fallen from best to really just mid-table. I mean, it's probably 5th or 6th best now. High speed was the only thing in the top 10. Airflow sensitivity was all the way down at 15th. The new part doesn't even get us anywhere near the top end. It's still just midfield, just better than it was. Last year at Silverstone is probably going to look similar to this year. We were 8th and 13th, though obviously Pourchaire has improved. So I would think somewhere around 8th and 9th this year is probably what we're in for. Only 2 cars a lap down. Everybody finished. We had a close race with the Red Bulls on top. This is a track with a mix of everything. You have every type, but in overall high speed, the most important. It used to be our strength. Now we're fairly balanced when it comes to cornering, but obviously until those new upgrades are done in 2 to 3 months, it's going to be a while of us not having an advantage in cornering any longer, or top speed for that matter. So look for us to struggle over the next handful of races a bit more than before and kind of get in the points often, but not do much better than that.
We're here in legendary Silverstone, where the very first Formula One World Championship Grand Prix was held back in 1950. It's a place where every tuft of grass breathes motorsport, and the crowd are already crackling with excitement. Silverstone demands a lot of power from cars, with numerous twists and historic turns. Downforce is going to be a key factor to manage if teams want to succeed here. The season is about halfway through, and it makes me wonder what else is in store for the teams. Well, there's only one way to find out. The competition is on.
Q1, a single run for us today. Perez put in a bad first run, but you know that'll improve. So right now the cutoff is about 1.3, and Albon with the lockup, and he's off the track. He is off the track, so Albon is going to start from last, and has underfloor damage as well. Okay, well that has finalized what we're going to do with Albon, which is we're going to go ahead and take his grid penalty, putting in the new engine components, spending the $3 million for this race weekend, and he's going to start from last place. Meanwhile, Porsche, the only one to get a clean run in here at Silverstone. Let's hope that he does enough to get in the top 10 today. And for his first run, that is only P11, same time as Ocon, 1/100th short of Ricciardo. But getting to the top 10 shootouts not going to be easy for us. Porsche going for the banker lap, and it's going to be a clean one. Guan Yu Zhou should be out of the way before we finish the lap up, and is, and it's a decent time. We're ahead of both Alfa Romeos comfortably. Guan Yu Zhou did not get a clean run in, and yeah, that's going to see us in a good position for our second run here in Q2. Good one, just a half second off of Verstappen. At the moment anyway, that's a comfortable P9, and Zhou was the only one who had a compromised lap as we prepare for our second run here with the fresh compound here in Q2. Porsche slightly in front of Hamilton. A little worrying for what Hamilton's time is going to look like, and that is just getting out of Q2. That was 10th quickest, but it is enough. We will see Q3. First run in Q3. Looks like Verstappen's going to completely get in our way, but fortunately we passed him down the Hamilton Straight, or is this the Hamilton Straight? I think that's the Hamilton Straight. I don't remember for sure, but either way, it's not last.
I think there's been a
Ricciardo's time is well off. We're ahead of Perez and Sainz, and that is P7 on the first run. And we ride with Porsche as he goes on his hot lap here in the last run of Q3. Of course, we are on the fresh compound where everybody else is using the used tires, so we'll see what we can do. A lot of green first sectors, though, up and down the grid. Only, what, 4, 5? Okay, half the cars have been faster in the in the first sector. Second sector, Verstappen is very quick. Perez has gone quicker, but Sainz and Ricciardo both slowing down, and we've been faster in both of the first two sectors. Russell improved a little. Hamilton and Russell, P6, P7, that's the target. That's who we're trying to get ahead of. Ricciardo is behind us. There's one. Perez looks like he will improve his time, probably dropping us to P9, but we look to improve our time, and yes, Perez just only 8th place for him. What can we do? And that is a better lap time, but it does not move us up the grid, so we stay P9. So he improved, but only just. So P9 will be where we start the race from with Porsche, and of course Albon, with the new engine components, will start from the back of the grid. So while, yes, we got burned on the let's do one run in Q1 thing. We've been waiting for an opportunity anyway to get the parts. The next one would be costly. If that happens again, that would be very costly with Albon. Porsche still has that freedom, so I don't know if with Albon starting for the next race, we need to start making 2 runs in Q1 once again. With Porsche, I think we're just fine waiting that till we have that instance, because ultimately we want to spend that $3 million and start from the back of the grid anyway. So taking that chance still makes sense for him. Not so much for Albon anymore.
It's time for the final touches here on the grid ahead of today's race.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. The work Red Bull did during qualifying was nothing short of spectacular. Now let's see if they can repeat that for today's race. The weather is very overcast here, and teams are staring at the sky watching for the first sign of rain. Strategies might have to be quite flexible going into today's race.
This is sure to be quite the spectacle then, and we've got a front row seat for today's race here at Silverstone.
Same strategy for both drivers, as rain is expected, moderate rain is expected for the race. It's going to be dry for the first 14 laps or so, which means it's a short enough time to go onto the softs. Softs can last that 14 laps and have a little bit of an ability to push. Not much, but we can push for a few laps here and there. So definitely at the start, it's okay to push for up to a few laps. For overtakes where we need it, we can push a bit. We can afford to use the tires. We just can't use them continually for the 14 laps. The intermediates, that's a long stint. That's a difficult stint at the end. That's one we got to be careful on. That's one we really got to be careful on. We might even need to back off a little bit here and there. But knowing that we are good on tire wear should help us out a little bit. If there's any offs, any virtual safety cars, that would really help for easing up a little bit and saving the tire life. Hopefully wets for the end. Clearly it's going to be wet for this stretch, but how long, I don't know. Is this enough to get into wets? Will anybody make that change for that few laps? Or do the intermediates, work? Do they get you throughout? And that's going to dry up a lot towards the end. Not dry, but you're definitely going back through the intermediates for the last 7 laps or so. Is it worth it to get back onto the intermediates for the final 7? Or is staying on the wets and holding out till the end while everybody's catching up to you the right way? Well, I suppose it'll depend on how quickly the track transitions and whether that means wets back to intermediates at the end of the race. And lastly, before we get started, anytime you're in the wet, pace is a little bit lower, which means you're not pushing the engine as hard, which means you save fuel. Therefore, we can assume we will save some fuel. So we're going to start light by a couple of laps and hope to be more aggressive as we go through as well.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Here's Williams. They're in the front half of the pack, so there's plenty of potential for them. And then we've got Alex Albon. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. The race start is mere seconds away. Anticipation is high, and the drivers are ready for this. The British Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
All right, we are racing 52 laps here at Silverstone. It's going to go by relatively quickly, that one. And Porsche is going to be the main focus, of course, as he is in a much better position than Albon after Albon's big mistake in Q1 has left him at the back of the grid. But Albon does have brand new components for the car, and Porsche's, they're not that much worse. And that is Porsche ahead of Perez, already up into P7. Soft compound, not many opting for it, if any. Are we the only ones?
And a new position, just
wow,
we're
the only ones that has recognized what is coming with the weather and gone aggressive. So let's keep pushing. Like I said, we can afford to push for a little while yet. Albin somehow still just P20. He should already be P15 by this point. Soft compound, driving aggressive from the very back of the grid against some of the slowest cars. Pourchaire's gone through and done so, you know, ahead of a Red Bull. Albin finally gains a position, getting ahead of Stroll now. I'm already having a look on another car from the same straight. And as we cross the line to begin lap number 2, Albin inching his way up to P18, and Pourchaire keeps on going now, inching his way past Bottas. He needs to keep working his way up. Track position is going to matter for what is to come later, so Albin's got to keep trying to pick these guys off. Be a little more aggressive with him. Pourchaire just put in fastest lap on lap number 2. Oh no, that was lap number 1. We're halfway through lap number 2 here. Pourchaire has gotten around Sainz. Go aggressive again to finish the move. And he's coming from a better spot on the grid, and yet somehow Albin still struggling and pushing harder, longer, and not. That would have been an overtake on the Haas if we still had enough battery left, but we do get up beside him. We ultimately get up beside him as we go through Maggots and Beckett's. And as we hit the back straight, we should have just enough of an advantage here, especially with the pushing, to finish that overtake. Alonso on the hard compound now, holding us up. Can we get up beside him? No, not quite. Not yet. 3 wide. Gasly was just behind us. He's going to spin and then resume. Oh, he just checked those guys up. Gasly keeps his position, but those 3 are going to be well off the back now. We are still behind Alonso, by the way. 7 seconds behind the leaders, not bad. Perez, 2.5 seconds behind. That is the one train that's really missing out. Pourchaire still in a strong position right on Norris for a podium place. Albin has brand new fresh parts, but another fastest lap there for Pourchaire. Pourchaire does have, both cars have the new chassis. Pourchaire has the new side pods. Albin does not. Magnussen 1.8 behind, so we are going to leave that group behind, so those 6 cars are not going to be a threat later on. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go balanced. We're going to go standard, and we are going to harvest.
Yeah.
Time to fill the battery. We need that for the overtakes, and we need those tires for later on. And then focus on Pourchaire, who sits in P3 just behind the leaders. And we have 6 cars at the front. Yes, Russell, 2.5 seconds behind. Perez, another 2 seconds behind. So we have a front 6. It is the 2 Ferraris. It is 1 Red Bull. And then the 2 McLarens. So if you aren't going forward, you're going backwards, apparently, as Pourchaire loses 2 positions while driving neutral. Tires are still at 70%. He should still have good pace, but ultimately, if we're the 10th quickest. Not sure why his pace is so much worse than Pourchaire's when he's supposed to be the better driver. And finally, that is Albin over Hamilton. Go ahead and settle in again. That took all of that battery. Here we go. 4 minutes away till the rain will come. And it looks like it's going to come steady right away, meaning it'll be a very quick transition to the intermediates. I don't think we have an overtake right now, but we'll see what. Let's just stay neutral. Gotta stay neutral, just go aggressive. Is that enough to get up beside these guys? Can't go anywhere. Might as well do something useful. Fill that battery for following the pit stop. Pit stops have not been our friend. We're a little bit slower on the pit stops, and because of our pit box location, we tend to have... And there it is. Oh, that's not what I was trying to do.
Yes.
That's not what I was trying to do. I tried to slow things down. I sped them up to times 16. We were at times 2. And so the rain started to fall. I wanted to slow it down to times 1 so I had enough time to react. But it automatically slowed down to times 1. So my single click, instead of going down from times 2 to times 1, flipped it the other way all the way to times. So that's definitely going to go down as my bad. And is Albin able to get in? No, even Albin was already past pit road.
With a great overtake.
And half the field goes in. Okay, Russell has gone for full wets. Hamilton has gone for full wets. Mercedes always seems to have a different strategy to everyone else in that. Gasly has also gone to full wets. 4 cars on the intermediates. But at 3.5 millimeters already and continually increasing, it feels like full wets are going to be the way to go for quite a while. 2.68 and Albin's stuck. Albin's still stuck. Finally Albin goes. Albin just lost 10 seconds. It picked up so fast to 3.6 that you figured that it was going to stay. Porsche is already better than what we started the race on. Albin is almost about what we started the race on, despite all that pushing that we did. Lap 16, but I think we've made the wrong strategy call here. Will others pit and put on the wets now? Hamilton, Alonso both pit. Hamilton was on the wets though. He's switching to the intermediates now that it's wet enough. As 2 cars already make a second stop, and they are switching in opposite directions. Track back down to damp, 3.96. Okay, that is Albin making a move on Ocon. Russell pits to put on intermediates. Russell pits to put on intermediates. I do believe we might have made the wrong decision. I was nervous we made the wrong call. Looks like we made the right call. And the ones that inspired me to make the right call themselves just switched to the intermediates. And look at Porsche moving forward. So Porsche now chasing Verstappen. We are the only car in the top 10 besides Gasly on the wets. Gasly's all the way down in P8, now P7 as he's making his way through as well. And Albin is clearly gaining going forward. He was back here with these guys. Now he's made his way beyond Ocon and up to here. We passed Tsunoda not that long ago, but Tsunoda all the way down in 19th. No, it was Guan Yu Zhou. Zhou we passed. Russell came out of the pits after going from wets to intermediates, and then Ocon. So we've passed 2 cars so far, and we've caught that next group ahead finally. And makes the double overtake as he gets Vettel as well. Go ahead and push again. And overtake. And we are already up beside Perez and around Perez. And that is P8. Next up is Magnussen. Porsche has overtaken Verstappen for the race lead. And actually driven away quite a bit. So 1, 4, and 7 for the faster runners on the correct compound. Stroll and Alonso making their way through too in 14th and 15th. Schumacher is down in last though, but he has caught up to Tsunoda. He will probably get around him at some point. But Porsche is running away with this race right now, and Albin caught Ricciardo so fast and passed him so fast that I didn't even notice until we were ahead of him. It is the right time to go. Track's starting to dry out a little bit. I do think this will be the time you want to be on the intermediates. Gasly pits. I just did it again. I was wanting to pause, to pit Albin, and instead I have messed that up. Okay, fresh intermediates for Pourchaire
And
for
box.
Albin. Gap to the leader, 14 seconds, 25 seconds, already 25 seconds. So Albin's going to lose a lot of positions. Pourchaire's not. Pourchaire is so far out in front. Verstappen's going to come out ahead, but as the track is drying out, we are going to be on intermediates that are much fresher, and that's going to allow us to push on. We are going to stay aggressive. Those are not going to make it all the way. Albin also pitting. Stroll and Schumacher also pitting. I told you we weren't the only ones that were going to pit this lap. And for now, it's P9, which is better than where we were. We drop a couple more spots, though. Now P12, P13, P14. So we come out kind of where we were, with Albin a little bit better off than where we were. Pourchaire is much better than where he was. Albin went from the front end of this group to the tail end of that group, which that plus fresh tires. It did work out. It did work out. That was the right call. And in a good spot. Multiple cars have crashed. Multiple cars have crashed in Sector 3. And we just saw them off to the side.
Let's have a look. All eyes on Kevin Magnussen here.
Aston Martin plus K-Mag. Just clip the wing.
A big smash.
Not much in that one.
They'll have felt that.
One thing I'm hoping for was I'd been looking at race strategies, and if you pit here and go with the intermediates, it was going to be a major stretch to get to here where you need the wets again. Big time stretch. My guess, a lot of cars are going to pit somewhere around lap 30 to 33 for another set, and then have to come in 5 laps later to put on
And there's an
wets.
overtake from
And
Williams.
if that's the case, as Albin trying to make his way up the grid, Magnussen now pitting, so Albin, that's into P11. And just being aggressive here on the intermediates is helping. We are gaining something. Pourchaire, meanwhile, has pulled back about 0.8 of a second on Verstappen. And then Albin remains the same distance behind, making his way forward as well, slowly making his way past these cars, and he gets around Russell now and is back into the points once again. So being aggressive is paying off. And being on the wets has taken away that whole you have to stretch. And if everybody else does pit twice within 5 laps, as the track changes and those tires didn't quite make it, if that's the case, we don't have to make that extra stop. We've already made it. Which means we're a full pit stop ahead of a lot of the field, potentially, right now. We'll see if they stretch. And if they stretch, they're going to definitely be off the pace during that period of time. Bottas is able to stay ahead of us for now. Bottas goes around Vettel, and now we do the same. McLaren was the faster one. Remember, the McLarens were in that front 6. Hey, meanwhile, Pourchaire. Let's go conserve with him for a while as well.
We want to leave court, please.
With just 21 laps to go, we need to get that fuel in a better state soon. So we run P2, P8. And track is back to wet conditions. And we are expecting heavy rain. And we're not the only ones that have decided to come out, as it looks like Perez is going to pit. Yeah, other teams are opting to pit now. Pourchaire, 2.75 for the stop. His stop is 2.699, and he will come back out in P13. Handful of other cars pit as well. 3 seconds behind, so we picked up 2 seconds on that lap. Sainz is pitting. So Albon, you can see that his position will improve as others do pit. But the track has already dried to 3.98, so back to intermediate conditions, but we appear to be 1 minute away from some heavy rain. Not so heavy. Uh-oh. Our weather forecast is letting us down. No, here it comes. There it comes. Now the track is getting increasingly wet. Perez into the pits again. Is he going to go back to the intermediates? Oh, he's just ruined his race. And we're back in wet conditions.
Looks like there's been a lockup.
Sonoda with the lockup, turn 14. Currently, we still run P4, P13. Perez somehow comes out ahead of Albon. Not sure how he managed to do that one. I didn't think he had made up that much ground. Leclerc 47%. Norris is on 46%. Those guys are going to have to pit soon, one way or the other. Back down to intermediate conditions at 3.9. P2, P12. Oh, we are the only ones on the front end that are on the intermediates. Guan Yu Zhou, the only one on the back end on the intermediates, as Alonso and Schumacher look like they are going to stay on intermediates. I think there's our pit road right there. So for Porsche, it's too late. This is supposed to be the height of the rain period. I mean, this is supposed to be the wettest track is the entire race. And it looks like it's just not happening, and it's going to get lighter. So we need to get back onto the intermediates. So we made the right call earlier. We did not make the right call this time. Albon pitting first.
Box this lap.
Tires severely overheating, and the rain picks up again. But will it get back to intermediate condition, or wet conditions, that is? Not sure it will. 385. It's almost back to full wets, and here we are pitting. Guan Yu Zhou pits as well, though. P16, and we should be good to go till the end of the race, though we need to go standard from here. You can see that, yes, from here, the tires on aggressive can just about make it. Track conditions back to full wet, so Porsche gets a little bit of a lifeline here. He's the only car on track on the full wets. A lot of cars are going to have to pit at least once more. Albon is done. Porsche still has to pit one more. Hamilton, Sonoda both in the pits. Are they going to come out on intermediates or full wets? Once this track gets below 4.0, it's not going to come back above it again, though. And he will definitely get to the end and able to push all the way. Meanwhile, for Albon, go ahead and go back to 2.685 for that stop. Down to P3, down to P4, and does resume from P4. So at worst, I think he's looking at a P4. Fuel almost right, but 12 laps to go. Norris and Leclerc might be good to go till the end. Verstappen's really going to be pushing it. Russell has to pit soon. We certainly have an advantage and can push, but I don't know if we're going to gain those positions back. But meanwhile, Albon has 1, 2, 3, 4 cars yet to stop ahead of him. He might get back into the points. It's going to be pretty iffy, though. The field's spread out a lot. Russell's going to come out ahead of Albon, so Albon does not get that position. He should get Gasly. He should get Stroll when they ultimately pit. Verstappen has lapped Schumacher. That's the first car lapped this race. So the field has stayed fairly bunched up. Alright, we're going to go balanced now for Porsche, even though we still have a negative. It will cover itself off here, driving in the wet. That should give us some additional pace to maybe chase down Leclerc and Norris. I'd love to get on the podium, but that's a lot of ground to cover. Albon still has a ways to go to cover things off yet. He does have 3 cars ahead of him that he may be able to catch. Pourchaire has a nice full battery, but Albon does not, so that's going to make it even harder. Right now we're not going aggressive, but I think we can now. I think we've saved up enough. Yeah, we've saved up enough. We can go aggressive now. But that's only P12 for Albon, so he is going to have to make some overtakes, and Ocon is really the one we're chasing, and Ocon, he's a ways further up. And then that's only one. So you got to get Russell or Hamilton, and they are way up here. That's going to be a difficult ask for Albon. I do not think he's going to necessarily get back into the points today. Even Pourchaire getting into the podium is going to be hard, unless they make another stop. Track down to 2 millimeters. Is it going to dry out enough to go to the softs? It may yet. And if it happens early enough, 10 laps to go here, 11, it may be, whoa, hello, now it just said lap 45 of 52. Did it not just say 42? There's not enough laps left. There's not enough laps left for switching to the softs. Alright, fuel. Neutral for Albon. Almost neutral for Pourchaire. Of course, we turned the engine up a little sooner for him. Pourchaire's advantage over Norris and Leclerc has been negated, and Verstappen's got a huge lead. Don't need to worry about those behind him, though. He's got a healthy advantage over them.
And
I think we need to just go standard and see the race out. Albon has overtaken Magnussen. There you go. There's one. And is up beside the Aston Martin. Those guys may try to stretch till the end, in which case they're going to lose a lot of pace. They're already losing pace.
And there's an overtake from Williams.
Track's almost dry enough, but again, there's 5 laps to go. It's just not long enough. You're not going to make up the ground that you're going to lose by pitting. You might be 3-4 seconds a lap faster, but if you only run 4 laps, you're only going to gain 12 to 15 seconds. You lose more than that in the pit stop. Ocon, the one we needed to catch. Where is he at? I don't even see him. Oh, he's way ahead.
I think it will
Track
be dry.
is now dry.
Okay.
Track is dry. But again, it's too late. It's too late for that to matter. Got most of our calls right today. Just one that didn't quite go according to plan. And track is damp yet again. So the rain has picked up. Gasly pits. Magnussen and Stroll pit. Late in the race, they are pitting. Albon up to P12. The tire wear was just too bad, and they have opted to pit. And they come out on intermediates to finish the race off and go straight to the back of the grid. So they could not make it to the end of the race, apparently. I don't think anybody else is desperate enough to have that issue. Albon gained what could be gained. And Verstappen heads to the line to claim victory. Norris, with fastest lap, is going to have a P2. A huge day for McLaren here. That is Leclerc just behind him to round out the podium.
And today's winner.
And that is a P2 and P3 for them. Pourchaire just missing out on the podium with a P4.
Let's checkered flag. Checkered flag.
Sainz takes P5. Ricciardo hunting down P6. And Perez and Bottas side by side. Perez just eking out the position ahead of Bottas. Hamilton's going to take P9, and Russell rounding out the points-paying positions in P10. Ocon is going to claim P11 ahead of Albon. Albon just P12 today. Cannot fully recover from his woeful starting grid position. Pourchaire picks up 12 points. That's all we get for the day, though, and that definitely hurts things in the championship. Verstappen pulling further away now. A little bit of a runaway championship at the moment is what it's looking like, with Ferrari closing down on us by quite a bit. Porsche back ahead of Albon in the points by 3. It's nice that they are this close together. And we are just 36 points behind. That's not a terrible gap. 33 ahead of Ferrari. Not a terrible gap. McLaren are faster than us now. I think we are probably 4th fastest now, at least based on that performance anyway. But that is going to do it for this episode. I'm the Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.